Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Game over, Toronto fans. Welcome to the final regular season game over of the 2024-2025 season for Game Over Toronto. My name is Lauren. On the other side of the screen, we have Zach Payne. And just as we all predicted on the backs of Chris Tanev and Philip Myers and an overtime winning goal by Scott Laughton, the Leafs flipped the script on what is normally their whimper into the playoffs. Going into the playoffs with a 5-game winning streak. Even though Joseph Woll had a little bit of a tougher night tonight, it's not really that big of a concern because he is not starting game one. But we're going to talk all about that. We're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about the fact that the Leafs have sort of flipped the script in terms of how they finished the season, wondering if that'll make a difference, going over the lines and all of that, and that's all going to be here on tonight's show on Game Over Toronto. So, Zach, it was funny. We started our video call as always, and I came on and you were laughing.
Yeah, this this game 82, as is tradition, is the worst game of the season. I honestly might enjoy watching preseason games more than the final game of the season because when there's nothing on the line, there's nothing to really cheer for, and the Leafs very clearly did not care tonight. The Red Wings didn't either. Like, this was a terrible product of hockey. Like, we could be honest about that. But hey, it was fun at least, and it's kind of nice to have this little calm before the storm that we know is coming on Sunday. So
yeah, the Toronto Maple Leafs being quoted as saying it's going to be a bloodbath, and I am sure that that is actually an understatement, and hilarious that that will be on Easter weekend. So obviously, you know, a good way to kick off the postseason. Like I said, we're going to talk all about the playoffs preview, but tonight, like you said, from the beginning of the game, it just looked like the Leafs were just doing everything they could to play in a way that didn't make it look obvious that they weren't trying. But Austin Matthews in the third period, I think to that point had only skated about 9 minutes. So
yeah, I got to pull up the final ice time in this game because I said before the game on Blue Sky, I posted if any of Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares play more than 15 minutes, I'd be annoyed. They finished slightly over that. Matthews played 15:36. Marner played 16:36. Nylander played 16:28, and Tavares played 16:22. The leading forward in ice time was actually, who was it? It might have just been Marner at 16. Yeah, Marner at 16:36 led the team. So
wow.
It was a very balanced effort. You roll all four lines, and you can't take anything away from this game. Like, sure, there's some fun goals. Philip Myers doing his best Cale Makar impression. Chris Tanev out of nowhere sniping with 1.8 to go. And, Scotty Laughton gets a nice tuck, which will be good for the confidence. But if you, watching the 3 periods, you can't watch that and be like, this is indicative of how the Leafs are going to play in the playoffs. Like, no. It's just not. The attention to detail wasn't there for either team. Like, you could just see it in the way they're playing. There was a play where the Leafs had a power play, and Marner is back checking against a shorthanded chance, and he's going 40% effort on that. Like, he's so very clearly like, look, this guy, look at this guy that's skating against me would be you know what I mean? So I'd caution anyone, if you are looking at that game and being concerned with how the Leafs are playing, just take a breath. All right. Not at all how they will play on Sunday. They are going to come out with a lot more intensity and passion Sunday night. I promise you.
Now tonight, like we said, unexpected goal scorers. Austin Matthews actually getting on the board first for either team with 2:07 to go with a really nice backhand and an assist from Matthew Nyes, who earlier in the period missed his opportunity to get his 30th goal of the season. They tried for the rest of the game to get him that, and you just know that he is going to, even though they won, you know that he is going to be laying in bed tonight and just being like, I could not have missed any harder.
Yeah, that was so brutal to watch. Austin Matthews, though, that was a really nice goal off of a nice pass from Matthew Nyes. And Austin Matthews, got to call him out. 33 goals. That's a new career low for him. Bum. Washed.
He missed an entire month of the season. But
I'm pretty
in
sure he
fairness,
did. The year he scored 34, I think he did too.
Yeah. Well, and that's just, not every season can be 50. Do you remember back at the beginning of this season and we did our like hot takes?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I actually said that my hot take was that I think Austin Matthews isn't going to score 60, but he's going to hit 50. And so I was quite a bit off. But none of us knew going into the season that he was going to be as injured as he clearly was. Now, I do think that...
For a good portion, yeah.
Yeah, right? And I do think that, Scott Laughton getting a goal tonight is good for him. I think it's good for Austin Matthews too, man. Like, I think he needs a little bit of that.
3 straight.
Yeah. And it's felt like that hasn't happened all season.
So I saw this stat on the broadcast. Matthews only had 3 multi-goal games this year,
That's
and last
wild.
year he had what, like 19 or something?
Yeah, like well over a dozen.
So that is a weird thing that the goal, like scoring in bunches, hasn't happened this season. But to see Matthews score, like granted, in Buffalo is an empty netter, boohoo. But goals in 3 straight. The goal against Carolina was a nice, pretty good one-timer.
Yeah.
The goal tonight, good hands in front. So, excuse me. I think overall Matthews is looking about as good as he can based on where we know his health is this season. So, I'm not that worried. I don't think Austin Matthews is going to be the reason they lose a series.
No, and it's funny you bring up the fact that last year Matthews had so many multi-point games, and yet last year Mitch Marner did not reach 100 points, and this year he did.
Yeah,
but
he got an assist on the Matthews goal too, didn't he? So
I think
that's 101.
so. Yeah, and
he got 2 assists, 102.
Let's go, new career high. The fact of the matter is earlier this season when Matthews was out, Mitch Marner quite literally was like, "I'm the guy now," and turned into this player that was like, just absolutely just an actual firing squad. Let's hope he brings that back. Like, they should show him some game tape from when Austin Matthews wasn't playing, being like, listen, Mitch, we know you can do this. And if you score 2 more goals in the playoffs, 2, that's it, just 2, then most Toronto fans, especially if it's in after game 5.
You know what? He could have 0 goals all around as long as he has like a primary assist per game.
Yeah.
Like, as if he's setting up goals at the rate that, like, the game tying goal to Chris Tanev, he passes it through like 10 bodies to get that to Tanev. It was a crazy pass, right? If he's doing that, I don't care if he's actually the one putting the puck in the net, but he has to be creating goals, creating offense. I've talked about this all season. The difference between good Mitch Marner and great Mitch Marner, we see good Mitch Marner in the playoffs. That's the Marner that, he can find open space. He can find the open guy. He will be a positive contributor. Great Mitch Marner creates that open space. He creates passing lanes that no one else can make. So that's the difference for me. What I'm looking for from Marner in the playoffs is he someone who's just good and positive, or is he dynamic? Is he creating for others? Is he creating for himself? Is he driving the nets for once in his life in the playoffs? Like, these are things that he's done in games 1 to 3, not when it matters, though.
Yeah, and that's just it, right? Is like, maybe it remains to be seen if that big assist on the entire championship winning game back in the Four Nations, if he's going to remember what that was like and how he did not just disappear in the big moment. He was there. He set up Connor McDavid for maybe one of my favorite goals in recent memory in terms of international play.
And don't forget, the reason that Canada was even in that game is because the opener against Sweden, Mitch Marner was the one scoring in overtime. If the Canadians lost that game, Sweden would have been the ones in the finals. So he showed up when it mattered at that tournament. Granted, that tournament meant nothing, but he's done it before.
Yeah.
It's just do it now. And honestly, the other thing too, this is another differentiator between good Mitch Marner and great Mitch Marner. Good Mitch Marner, he is amazing at looking for Austin Matthews and finding Austin Matthews. Great Mitch Marner doesn't care what player he's passing to. So I love Austin Matthews. I want him to score a goal a game. I don't care. Mitch Marner cannot be obsessed with finding Matthews. He just has to make the right play. That's the other thing. Don't force feed 34. Just score.
Yeah, like definitely, especially recently. One of the things that's made the Leafs so much more dangerous is the fact that they're not just looking for each other. Because at the end of every single warm-up, Mitch and Austin literally spend 5 minutes on the ice just passing back and forth to each other, and that's fine. You have your buddy, and that's your guy. Wonderful. But the best opportunities and the best moments that this team has been able to produce, especially in the postseason, is when it's not just the two of them trying to do everything, relying on their other teammates. And I think Matthew Nyes coming in and playing as well as he did this year and like elevating even more than he did last year, like I think that it's very clear that they're starting to trust him way more and include him as part of like the brainchild on that line, right? And it's just what a time to be alive.
As they should, though. Like,
yeah.
If we go back in time, if we harken back to last year, Matthew Nyes was fun, right? He was a fun player. He was not a first liner, though. He was very clearly someone who needed to be lower in the lineup.
Yeah.
He ends up on the second line. And then in the playoffs, he really, first 2 games in Boston, not as much. But then games 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, he elevates his play. He finds another gear when the series really mattered. So then this year, he took that step in the playoffs, and then he took another step this regular season. We know that he has elevated in the playoffs before, something that very few players on this roster do. I'm excited at the prospect of doing it again, but regardless, even if Matthew Nyes is the exact same as he's been all regular season, that is a very good playoff style player. Yep. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and he's only getting bigger and stronger. Like, even earlier this season, I don't remember who it was, but they were like, he has no idea. It was one of the Leafs defensemen, just from battling him in practice. And they were like, he has no concept of how actually strong he is. And will, like, fight harder than he's realizing for a puck in practice. And they're like, bro, you don't need to try so hard. I think it was Simone Benoit.
Remember at the start of the season, there was that whole, like, the stretch of games, the first 15, where he was routinely running over people when he had the puck. Like, someone would try to hit him and just bounce off of him. We haven't seen that as much ever since he got concussed against Vegas that one game. But maybe that's if we're talking about elevating, maybe that's where he elevates. Maybe when people he just becomes a lot more forceful with his checks, and that probably could be said for a lot of guys. Look.
You know the word that you're looking for? The word you're looking for is truculence. He is literally like a full cargo truck.
He's just a tank, man. But the thing is, Matthews and Marner, we know that they've had their warts in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. If it was ever going to work, this feels like it could. They aren't hyper-focused on Matthews this year. Nyes is probably the most physical presence that they've had on that line ever, because Zach Hyman, for as good as he is, he wasn't as big or as strong or quite as good on the forecheck. He was a fantastic player. He was better defensively, a better penalty killer, all that. But Nyes just has a little something extra on the forecheck that can bring a little bit more of that presence, complement Matthews on the forecheck, who is one of the best puck protectors on the boards in the entire NHL. So even if Mitch Marner is a perimeter player, you have 2 guys that aren't, which should be able to, in theory, make that. Like, Marner could end up being the 3rd best player on that line in the playoffs. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's going to be so interesting to see how much the needle really moves from that. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We got Charlie in the chat from Game Over Ottawa saying,
"Oh my God."
We're
not
at the playoff preview yet. Hold on, we're not at the playoff preview yet. We gotta relax.
I know.
We'll get there.
Easy, Charlie. Easy boy. Okay, well, let's move into the second period. We're at a really good point here. Let's move over into the second period. If you do not follow Game Over Ottawa, you should, because it will be really interesting to see. I'm actually really excited to see how excited, and how busy the Game Over Ottawa chat is going to be. It's going to be fabulous. So
I cannot wait to see those post-game streams after they lose.
Wow. I'm trying to be at peace here. I'm just trying to keep the room together.
Anthony Stolar said this would be a bloodbath. Lean into it.
That's
we
true.
are at with these people. We'll make peace after. We'll have a good time after. But for the next 2 weeks, let's be honest, it's going 7 games. So for the next 2.5 weeks, we are at war here.
Yeah,
Lauren.
it's true. It's true. I gotta wear my blue eye black next time and just be like, here we go. Okay, so let's talk about the Leafs lines. Do you want to read off what the lines were tonight? They kept the same lineup from last night, or 2 nights ago, rather.
Yeah, so first of all, while I pull this up, everyone that's in chat right now, a reminder to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto, as we are pushing towards 200 subscribers as we get closer to the playoffs. The lineup tonight. So, Knies, Matthews, Marner. That's the first line. Don't need to stress about that. Domi, Tavares, Nylander. Big question there. McMahon, Holmberg, Robertson. Big questions there. Lorentz, Laughton, Yarncroke. Big questions there. Basically, the bottom 9, we have no idea what it's actually going to look like. Defense. Riley Myers. That's not going to be a thing.
No.
Benoit Tanev. That's not going to be a thing. And Mermis Carlo. That's not going to be a thing. And you know what? We can save time. The defensive lines are McCabe, Tanev, Riley Carlo, Benoit, Ekman Larson. Craig Berube has indicated McCabe, OEL, and David Kampf are all going to be available for game 1. So
sit your ass down, Pontus Holmberg.
I don't know. He's the coach's pet, so he might not.
He fell over more times tonight than Nick Robertson. Okay, I don't know if the pot is rubbing off on the kettle or something, but
hey, we already talked. We can't talk about tonight's game to evaluate these guys. But let's start simple. Let's start as second line left wing. Who are you putting there and why?
I don't mind Domi there. I wish Bobby McMahon would just play more consistently so he could play there, if I'm being totally honest. Because when he's there, it's good. I think
it needs to be Bobby McMahon.
Yeah.
They've had the best expected goals rate when McMahon is on that line. It's around 60% when McMahon is with Tavares and Nylander. It's around 49-48% with anyone else. I don't want Domi there at all because that makes that line a complete liability defensively. And based on the way they've constructed these lines, they don't really have a matchup line.
Yeah.
So you can't afford to have a line that is that chaotic. They are fantastic with the puck on their stick in the offensive zone, but they don't play Berube hockey. They don't lean into good defense leading to good offense. They are just chaos, right? Pure chaos, which is fun, but I don't think that's practical. So I would put Bobby McMahon there because he's faster than Domi, like long stride. Domi's a little bit quicker, more agile, but McMahon's also better defensively. Tavares can be responsible defensively. So if you put someone else who's good defensively, it allows Nylander to just leave the zone for breakaway opportunities, I guess. And you could get by with that. It won't be a spectacular defensive line, but they will be fine defensively. And we'll talk about the Sens matchup later, but given who they're probably going to match up against, you have to be at least competent defensively there.
Yeah, well, and you don't want to mess with the bottom lines too much. Like, it really is too bad that Scott Laughton never worked out there. And I know that everyone's like, oh, Max Pacioretty's going to be available in the postseason.
They just didn't try Laughton, though, is the thing.
Yeah. No, they did for, like, a game, and it was
not long
bad.
enough, and not seriously, though, is what I mean. Like, they didn't give it a serious effort.
Yeah, and he slows that whole line down a little bit too, right? Like Tavares is not the most fleet of foot William Nylander is, and maybe that could be an option, but I don't know.
McMahon keeps up with Nylander in transition too, and Domi does too. Like that's not a reason to take him off, but McMahon actually can be a trigger man, whereas Domi needs the puck on his stick to make plays.
If he doesn't have the stick, if he doesn't have the puck, he's useless.
Yeah, and we know that Nylander is the puck dominant player the most puck dominant player on this roster. So having another guy that needs the puck to be effective, it just isn't gonna. It's the same reason that Marner and Nylander don't work together at 5-on-5.
Yep.
They both need the puck to be successful, and there's only one puck. So you put either that's why Robertson was a decent concept a while ago before that obviously flamed out. Like just someone who could be a trigger man. Just sit there, get open, and fire home the shot after Nylander feeds you in the slot. That's all that matters. So I think, you just got to lean into Nylander driving offense, and then you got to get by defensively.
It's crazy that we've gone this whole season and even last season, and we do not have a solution for that left wing, eh? Like
Nope.
all of our goodness on left wing is used up by now Matthew Nyes, and everybody else that we've tried there is just, it's literally like a rotating carousel. Like Max Pacioretty for a hot minute in December was fabulous there, but he hasn't played in like 40 games. You can't just bring him back and stick him on there and expect it's going to be fine.
No.
And if he gets hurt again, then you're back at square one.
Well, if he gets hurt, you'll figure it out. Like, the injuries happen, but
Yeah.
like the Leafs kind of gaming the system with LTIR, I love. Using that bullet on Max Pacioretty is a little weird to me, but I don't know what the plan is. I'm assuming Pacioretty has been healthy for weeks at this point, and
Yeah.
the Leafs are just like, oh, we don't know. Like,
Yeah.
so I respect them for doing that. I just don't know what the we're gonna see. I'm assuming tomorrow is going to be an off day, and I assume Saturday is going to be when they practice and we see their playoff lines. But yeah, I don't see it. Like, maybe on the fourth line, maybe on the like bottom six, I can understand the
stomach.
logic because Pacioretty was like wicked for laying big hits. Like, he's
For like
a veteran.
5
He's
weeks,
been
he
there
was
before.
unbelievable.
Yeah, so maybe you can tap into that, and he could be a responsible kind of scorer, but just a responsible vet that gets in on the forecheck, lays big hits, gets the crowd into it, all that. I just don't think he can keep up. Like, we talked about the speed issue on the second line. I don't think he can keep up in the playoffs on the second line.
No, not with that leg of his.
Yeah,
You know.
So we're both in relative lockstep. Bobby McMahon, second line left wing.
If that
Third line.
line's going to be effective, that's what it needs to be, I think.
Third line, I'm assuming at this point, if Domi's not second line left wing, Domi is your third line center.
Sure.
So, who are your wingers?
I don't know. Like in this scenario, is Nick Robertson in the game one lineup? Like after tonight's game, do you think that he's still a lock? He had that really bad giveaway that led to a really good opportunity.
Yeah, tonight I don't really care about it. I'm just thinking like, oh man. Oh.
Because David Kampf is going to come back. David Kampf is going to come back and be your fourth line center. And then on the right hand side,
you need him to be.
And David Kampf is good. I think he's been healthy too. And then you have
You need him for the PK.
Yeah, and you have Steven Lorentz on the right, and then you have Scott Laughton on the left. That's a pain in the ass line to play against. Because has Laughton been on the third line or the fourth line?
Well, they've kind of both just been like
interchangeable,
depending on situation. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
And that's why, like, I think talking about these lines is important, but I think that the bottom six is going to just be a carousel. Like, it's just going to be musical chairs.
So remember last year against Boston?
I try not to.
Through the first few games. Yeah, I know. But Ryan Reeves was in the lineup for the first few games.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm not going there. Game 6 on home ice, Noah Gregor comes in, and he is a firecracker because he's fresh. He's been there all series, like been resting all series. And he gets to come in, have a whole bunch of energy, and then he gets to just, I don't know, be an energy bag. He wasn't particularly effective, but he was as good as Noah Gregor can be, right? So, like you're saying, this carousel, this rotating cast, where, you know, Pontus Holmberg is probably not going to play every game. He might, because he's Craig Berube's darling, but he might not play every night. Nick Robertson might not play every night. You know, Calle Yarncroke might not play every night. But when those guys get in, they are going to be playing for a spot in the lineup. They're going to have just a little bit extra juice than someone like, I don't know, like, I don't have a good comparison, but like, there's just gonna be a little bit extra there, because not only is it the playoffs you're trying to win, but also you got to prove that you belong in this playoff lineup. So they're just gonna have that little bit extra, and I think having that rotating cast will, like, having internal competition will,
it's healthy,
be good for this bottom. Yeah, it's amazing for the bottom six.
Yeah, and we know that, you know, the game after Nick Robertson is scratched, he plays well. You know?
Exactly. So scratch him for game 6 for the love of God, because
and then let him score the series-winning goal, just like that.
Yeah, because we know that William Nylander scores a goal in Game 7. That's a given. And if Nick Robertson scores, look, that's already more than they usually score in Game 7. So there you go. But you know what? And that's my question to chat. there's 10 of you in here right now. What are your bottom 6 lines? Who do you have in the bottom 6? Who's sitting? Like, I would love to hear that, because we've been all over the place on this show, online. Like, people have no idea what's going to happen because there are so many different things you can do. And the real answer is you can just keep trying things. Like, especially when you go on the road, you can have lines for the first 2 games and then completely switch them up for game 3 just to maybe mess with Ottawa a little bit. Or if you win both of the first 2 games, you just keep rolling.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing is we have all those options.
Exactly.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the Leafs can't get any scoring from their bottom 6. I could see Alex Steeves making a surprise appearance. Because why not? You got nothing to lose. Unless Easton Cowan's available.
Okay, that's a whoa. That might be a bridge too far. But
Okay,
I think,
you say that, but have you seen his stats so far? Cowan?
yeah,
In the playoffs?
Counterpoint, the head coach is Craig Brubeck.
I'm just saying.
I know Sheldon Keefe put a teenager in the playoff lineup. I don't think they would. Like, it doesn't set up Cowan for success either. Like, that is your, we are down 3-0 in the series and we need something move. Like, that's like your Hail Mary.
Just so you know, Easton Cowan 7 minutes ago scored the assisted on the overtime goal. Yeah, he scored the overtime goal for London.
Good.
I'm just saying.
Good for him.
I'm just saying.
What has he done at the NHL level?
He had all those preseason goals. No, I'm just saying, like, if injuries happen and we don't have solutions and we try all this other stuff, like, why not?
But but
I hope it doesn't come to that. But
yeah, I was gonna say, I get what you're saying, but if that is where we're at, the Leafs are probably deep in the playoffs if we have that many injuries.
Yeah.
So
7 goals and 18 points in 7 playoff games so far.
We'll cross that bridge if we have to.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Also want to shout out Kay in the chat from Game Over Montreal. Currently watching both Game Over Ottawa and Game Over Toronto. Playing both sides, so I always come out on top. Kay, you lost the ability to play for both sides when you called out both sides for jinxing you and the Montreal Canadiens. You were actively chirping both of us, so I don't know if you get to play both sides here, buddy. Yeah. So Matthew in the chat responding to bottom 6 lines. A third line of Pacioretty, Laughton at center, Domi at right wing. Fourth line, Lorentz, Kampf, Yarncroke. I can get behind that, actually. I don't care who the center is, but like, and if Patches doesn't work, you put Robertson in.
We have options.
Yeah. The other thing too, let's say they keep the lineup as is, which I would hate, but let's play the hypothetical where the third line is McMahon, Holmberg, Robertson. That would be ironically so shockingly close to what it was going into game 1 against Boston last year. Do you remember what the line was?
No, but I have it in my book.
It was Callie Yarncroke, Pontus Holmberg, Nick Robertson. For 6 games, that line was together.
And then the fourth line, do you know what the fourth line was? Connor Dewar, David Kampf, and Ryan Reeves.
Dewar, Kampf, Reeves, yep.
Yeah.
So
I missed
the
Tyler
bottom 6. I miss Bertuzzi too. I still am mad that we kept Domi over him. I will play that. I will beat that drum to the ends of the earth. Okay. No, why did the message get retracted? I saw Kay say that she blamed both equally. That's being fair. Yeah. Oh well. I hope Montreal gets swept. I'm kidding.
You're not kidding. You're not kidding.
No, you know what I actually want? I want Montreal to go on a run, beat Washington, beat Carolina, because respectfully to Sheldon Keefe, the Devils they don't have Jack Hughes, so they're not winning. I want the Habs to make it to the conference finals and then lose to the Leafs. I want blood.
So you want the Battle of Ontario to start, and then you want to face one of the Florida teams, Tampa.
Honestly, if we're going for blood, I want to beat Florida. But if I want the Leafs to win, more realistically, I want Tampa.
Fair, that's very fair.
But the most like toxic run the Leafs can go on, beat Ottawa in like dominant fashion, so we actually get to chirp Ottawa instead of them claiming that they were just happy to be here. Then beat Florida because, oh man, that would feel good. Beat Montreal in whatever fashion, and then beat Edmonton so that we can dunk on McDavid and Draisaitl and say you wasted your two best chances of getting a cup and you'll never get one, and Matthews and Marner did.
Oh my God.
That's
it.
Toxic.
Just
I told you
you're getting so
that's
warm,
my toxic run. That's my toxic run.
You want Edmonton fans to hate us
run,
even more. That's what you want.
Oh, dude, if there is a world where the Leafs and this core win a cup and the Oilers don't, in 5 to 10 years, when all these players are, getting to the end of their career, I am going to have narratives to push.
That's so funny.
But the playoffs are not gonna. Yeah, Kay saying all that just gets beat by the Avs. So if we're doing a realistic run, the Avs, like in my bracket, I did two. I did the everything works out for the Leafs bracket, and then my realistic bracket. And in my realistic bracket, I had the Avalanche beating the Panthers.
Oh shit! You think it goes back to Colorado, eh? Well, okay. Well, you know what? It's clear that we need to talk about the third period, so let's move over. I know. I cut you off, but let's just talk about the playoff previews, okay? Because we're already 30 minutes in, and we're already talking about the playoffs. So let's just do the thing.
Okay.
And if you are watching, there's 12 of you. If you could just hit like, and if you could hit subscribe, if you're already subscribed, then thank you. We appreciate you being here. We are going to move over into the overtime period in, I don't know, probably 15-ish minutes. So make sure you get your questions. If you have anything you want to talk about, if you have anything that you're concerned about, if you know who's going to punch Brady Tkachuk in the face first, please tell us all the things down in the chat. And make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, and make sure you go check out the GameOverNetwork.com. We have our shop. We have links to all of our lovely hosts like Zach and myself, and of course in all of the other Canadian markets as well. And feel free to go and watch their streams because it helps the channels. But also feel free to delicately troll. Delicately. We don't mind a little bit of chirping.
Aggressively.
This is why I'm the host and you are not. No, I'm just kidding. But if you could do that, it would mean a lot to us. Obviously, it's really exciting that there's so many Canadian teams in the playoffs this year. What a great thing. What are you laughing at?
Sorry, Matthew in the chat. I love it. Winnipeg is too boring. It has to be the Leafs to win a cup for Canada. I love it. And Terry saying Carlo will punch Tkachuk first. It'll be Domi.
You think so? Domi has to reach up.
Domi's,
I would love. You know what I want?
That.
I want Brandon Carlo to literally dog walk. Do you remember Wayne Simmons a couple years ago? He dog walked Pierre-Luc Dubois away from Austin Matthews. I hope that Max Domi literally grabs Brady Tkachuk by the back of the scruff and just walks him away. That'd be great.
That'd be funny. Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
So you think that it's going to be? You think Colorado's going to win the cup? Honestly,
if I had to pick,
if you were going to bet money,
yeah.
That's who you'd put your money on?
If I had to put money, I'd probably bet it on Colorado. That being said, I am a Leafs homer, so Leafs are going to go 16-0.
Wow. 16-0. You got to believe in something.
I got to believe. But no, the Avs rebuilt themselves from being kind of falling off a little bit to a cup contender still. They did that mid-season, so it is what it is. Kay saying I came in and I immediately brought out Evil Zach. Mission accomplished. Okay,
it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot.
I think I'm just naturally.
That's not true. Last show you were nothing but pleasant and giving people props, and tonight you're sharpening your pitchfork. You're so excited for blood.
I will respect our adversary while sharpening my blade and preparing for war.
Fair.
That's what I'll do. But that being said, since we're not playing Montreal, I am joining every Montreal stream after a Capitals win, just to.
Oh yeah,
pour some salt in the wound.
I will be massaging salt into Andrew's shiny head.
Actually, you know what I might do is while we're on stream after Leafs playoff wins, just gonna go into the Game Over Ottawa chat and say, hey, if anyone wants to listen to some winners, come over.
Put them up.
We'll see what happens.
Put them up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, okay,
stick
so how do you stick them up? How do you think the Leafs are going to line up against Ottawa? So let's break this down to offense, defense, and goaltending. I think the clear winner in that is the Leafs have the upper hand in
So hold
goaltending.
hold on. We got a whole bunch of previous
Yes.
stuff. First things first. We just talked about the Leafs lines. So
Yep.
let's go through the Senators lines.
Yep.
Shall we?
Yes.
Starting first line. Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, Claude Giroux.
Mm-hmm.
Second line. David Perron, Dylan Cousins, Drake Batherson.
Mm-hmm.
Third line, this is their like checking shutdown line. Ridley Grigg, Shane Pinto, and is it Michael Amadio?
Yeah. Famed Leaf
And then
Michael Amadio.
And then fourth line, Nick Cousins, Adam Gaudette, and then their deadline acquisition, Zetterlund, who I think just hit 20 goals, which, woo, that's fun for a fourth line. And then on defense, they have Jake Sanderson and Nick Jensen as their top pair, Thomas Chabot, Artem Zub as their second pair, and then Clevin and Matan Paulo as their third pair. Unfortunately, Hamonic doesn't look like he's going to be in the lineup, which makes me so sad because that would have been a clear advantage Leafs. But that's their lineup. If we're looking at that, I'm assuming they're going to try to get Pinto's line out against Matthews as much as possible. But like hearing that lineup, what scares you the most, and what are you most optimistic about how the Leafs match up?
The Senators' third line is definitely going to be a deciding factor because the Leafs' third line is not set and strong the way that Ottawa's has been. I like our top line better. I like our defensive pairings better. I think every single one of our pairs is better than Ottawa's in terms of defense. I think that our goaltending is better. I do. Now, maybe not in terms of maybe
That's a spicy take.
Yeah, well, it's playoffs are just around the corner. I do think that one of the difference makers is going to be offense provided by defense, and that is something where the Leafs have struggled all season. Not tonight, apparently. If they could do that, once or twice in the playoffs, like it would be really nice. If what are you looking at? Is there ghosts in the room?
My
or
Morgan
something?
Riley jersey.
Oh, yeah. Are you looking for him? Because I don't know where he is. It would be really nice. He could be a difference maker. OEL is a difference maker. Brandon Carlo is a difference maker in a different kind of way. We have no idea what this defense system is going to look like with these players going into this playoffs. Brandon Carlo is such a fucking game changer up with Morgan Riley. Like that considering that we had TJ Brody literally the season before last. Like the comparison is.
Hey, you know what? Let's do another game.
Okay.
Do you remember what the Leafs' defensive pairs were in the playoffs last year?
I have notes.
Because I have them on top of mind. Okay, I got you.
Okay.
First pair, Riley Lyubushkin. Second pair, Benoit McCabe. Third pair, Edmondson Liljegren. So you have Brandon Carlo with Morgan Riley, who is better than Lyubushkin and Luke Shen in basically he is the best defensive defenseman that Morgan Riley has played with consistently, because obviously working with Tanev for some reason didn't work out. Then Benoit slides down to the third pair, so upgrade automatically. McCabe is on his proper side now, so upgrade automatically. And then Chris Tanev might be the best right-handed defenseman the Leafs have had this century, possibly. Then your third pair, Benoit, who I just mentioned was on the second pair last year, is probably at least comparable to Edmondson. And then OEL is better than Liljegren.
Yeah.
You're better in basically every spot.
Yep.
The only downgrade is that Morgan Riley is worse than he was last year.
Yeah. But the other side of that is that our goaltending compared to last year is not even in the same planet system. Yeah, it's in a different galaxy. It really is.
Exactly.
You can't really and that's a huge like the first pair, not like the fact that Ilya Lyubushkin was like the first line the first pair defenseman last year is like nauseating to think about. It's a Christmas miracle.
Boston is actually I know Boston owns Toronto, whatever, but it is hilariously embarrassing for them that it took 7 games and Game 7 overtime to beat that corpse of a Leafs team.
Yep.
But
now,
with that being said, I do want to say, for as good as I feel about the Leafs defense, the Senators have the best defenseman in the series by a decent margin. Jake Sanderson is better than any defenseman in this series on either side by a decent margin, because not only is he actually wicked defensively, he's also wicked with the puck on his stick. He's a great playmaker. He has a good shot. He activates in the offensive zone. He is wicked. Like, I think Sanderson within the next 2 to 3 years is going to be competing for Norris votes. If there's of the entire Sens roster, Sanderson is the guy that I look at and like, the Leafs don't have a clear way to deal with that.
A comparative.
When you look at the forwards, like, and like a way to shut that down. Like, the forward lines, you can match up like, okay, the Leafs have the better first line. Like, the Leafs have the better collection of top end talent.
Sure.
There's no denying that. But Sanderson is the Sens version of the Leafs don't have anyone on that level defensively.
Fair.
So if I was going to look at reasons to
be concerned,
be concerned. It's the Sens have the best defenseman in the series. If you look at, Vancouver with Quinn Hughes and Colorado with Cale Makar, it's obviously not quite on that level. But in terms of the extra element that those guys can bring and the way that they can alter a series, that concerns me. And also Thomas Chabot, very good offensive defenseman as well. If he is a better offensive defenseman than Morgan Riley, that could also be a big problem for the Leafs.
Yep. Well, apparently Philippe Myers just needs to activate. Oh.
Why did my lights just change? My lights just reset. Excuse me.
You were just, I could feel the belief. The belief actually emanated from your room for a few moments there. The one thing that we haven't talked about, actually recently at all, that we need to, is the fact that the Leafs are 1-18 in their last number of games power play. And the last several years, the power play in the playoffs has been actually devastating and part of the reason that they have lost the series. And yes, the Leafs have gone into the playoffs having won a bunch of games. And every single one of those games, their power play was shit.
So the cope here is in April, the Leafs, as you said, 1-18. They are third in expected goals with the power play in that stretch. Whereas in previous years, the power play was not generating chances, right? That was the problem. Not only were they not scoring, they weren't looking good at all. Whereas this year, they at least are generating chances, but I'm really concerned about this injury still because, I'm going to have an aneurysm if I see too many drop back passes in this series. Like, it is, and not only that, it's not just that they do the drop back. What do they do off the drop back? Every single time, it's either a pass to the half wall to Tavares or a pass to the other half wall to Matthew Knies.
Yep.
The Senators are. If you had $1 to bet on anything, I'd bet on over 1.5 shorthanded goals by the Sens this series. Just off of being able to pick off these predictable passes.
They're so predictable on the power play. It's so bad. It's so bad.
There's the cope is that they're still generating chances. The concern, they are mighty predictable. That being said, it's not the same. Like, I know 80% of the guys are the exact same from previous years, but Matthew Knies is he's better at getting rebound chances than John Tavares. Tavares is better at deflection, but he's a better net front presence for what this team needs right now than Tavares was. By contrast, Tavares is the best bumper that the Leafs have had probably since Kadri was still a Leaf.
Yeah.
Matthews and Nylander are the flanks, right? And then Mitch Marner is better at everything from the top of the point, managing the power play, than Morgan Riley is. So that's the other cope, is the Leafs basically in the middle of the power play. You get better at the net front, you get better in the bumper, you get better at the point, and then Matthews and Nylander are who they are. And I know Nylander's been cold as of late. If there was any Leaf that you can kind of bank on him elevating in the playoffs, it's William Nylander. So not too concerned about that, but I don't know. What's like if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your level of concern with the power?
If you had asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have been like a 3. Now I'm kind of at like a 6.5. I'm more concerned than I was expecting. 6. And yes, the Leafs, I think they end up the season still in the top 10 of power plays, but not for lack of, not because of how they've been playing lately. They had a couple weeks where they were like, they couldn't stop scoring. And once again, that has evaporated like a puddle on a hot day.
Yeah. So the other question, are you more concerned about the power play or the penalty kill?
Power play.
Interesting.
Because I think,
Because
I think that it's easier to figure out the PK getting back to what it was than the power play.
and I should be clear, I'm concerned about both. I'm petrified of this penalty kill. And you know what? If we look at ways the Leafs can lose this series, the conversation begins and ends with special teams. Obviously, there could be a freak thing like Anthony Stolarz falls off a cliff and then Joseph Woll isn't good in relief. Or Linus Ullmark has a 985 save percentage and just plays like prime Dominic Hasek. Those aren't necessarily the most realistic. Special teams is a legit, like, if the
It's
Sens
a major
power
concern.
play, the Senators generate more power play opportunities than anyone in the league over the past 3 years. So if they're able to go even 20% on the power play, and if they're generating 3 or 4 a game, they're getting close to a power play goal per game based on those averages. And then if your power play, by contrast, also is only scoring at 10 or 15%, there's a way for the Senators to really tilt the series in their advantage that way. So that is a concern. But with that being said, I do want to bring up the season-long stats. Now,
yes,
I apologize to everyone because
Really
this
quick.
is going to be a major stat jump. But yeah, go ahead.
yes. Before we do that, and before you give us all these stats and before we finish talking, if you do want to get your questions in after we talk about the stats, Zach is going to give us a whole bunch. We're going to talk about them really briefly, and then we are going to move over into the overtime period in about 5 minutes, probably. So get your questions in.
You can just turn it over to the overtime period now, and then I'll read out these
Sure.
stats, and that'll be my
Yeah,
question
let's do that.
to you.
Let's do that. That's a great idea. So yeah, over into the overtime period at 47 minutes. Sweet. Okay, so some season stats. You did a very good job of researching right before we went live here. So why don't you give us some and we can talk about them on the fly. I have not heard these, by the way. I have not heard any of these.
And of course, while you're writing your questions, a reminder to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto as well. Now, these stats are all lifted courtesy of Natural Stat Trick, which is my go-to site for all of the advanced analytics and whatnot. So I'm going to start with the 5-on-5 stats for the season. Shot attempts. So this is also known as Corsi for percentage, just the amount of shot attempts that your team controls over the course of a game. Toronto is third last in the league, actually. 47.38% of shot attempt share.
Right.
The Sens, exactly 50%. Actual goals for, so just goals scored at 5-on-5. The Leafs control 55.4%, which is in the top 5. The Senators are down at 46.88. Expected goals, Toronto is down at 48.5%. Ottawa's up at 49.5%. So there's a stark contrast between the Leafs' expected versus actual goals, which I do have to say that is a common trait of Craig Berube teams. Mm-hmm. They always outperform their expected goals because they limit high danger passes and chances, and they focus on those chances. They don't just pump pucks from everywhere, Carolina. They actually try to get to the dangerous areas. Speaking of which, high danger chances for percentage, Leafs 50.6%, Senators 49.8%.
Slim margin.
Team save percentage. Ottawa has a 9-11 save percentage of 5 tenders. The Leafs 9-26.
Thank you, Anthony Stolarz. Golly.
Power play. Power play percentage is easy enough to pull from, but expected goals per 60 minutes on the power play is kind of the best way we can indicate the amount of chances they generate. Toronto's up at 8.27, Ottawa at 7.54. Both of those teams are higher in March and April than they were all season, but just want to note that. Penalty kill, expected goals against per 60, Toronto 8.1, Ottawa 8.24. So to put all of that together and summarize it, the Leafs outperform their expected goals because they mostly shoot from high danger areas. They don't shoot from anywhere, and they allow other teams to shoot from the outside very comfortably, which inflates their save percentage a little bit. They limit high danger chances, but it also inflates the expected goals against. At the same time, it should be noted, these two teams are basically the exact same. My synopsis of both of these teams is they play hockey the same way. They are low event teams that like to shut down the middle of the ice, protect their goalies, and then they want to just capitalize on the opportunities that they get. The Leafs are just a better version of that. So if we're previewing it, I just view Toronto as a slightly better version of Ottawa, which is why Toronto is favored in this series, and also the fact that they won the division. But with all that being said, what is your reaction to those stats, and does it make you feel more or less confident?
The save percentage, I think, is probably the biggest margin, like in terms of noticeability. I think that the Leafs goalies are more likely to actually be the team that steals a game because of goaltending, which is not something we've had in years previous. I think that both teams could do it, but again, that's the biggest thing that the stats tell me. We do know that the Leafs do a very good job of usually shutting down the middle of the ice. I think that part of the reason that I have a bit more faith in the PK coming back is I think to some degree because they've been chasing, they haven't been trying to make the playoffs, they've been trying to win the division. They have been a little bit more hesitant in terms of blocking shots on the PK, but starting Sunday, it's the playoffs, and like, what are you saving it for? So I think that that's going to go up as well, and I think that they'll do a really good job of limiting Ottawa's chances, especially on special teams. But, you know, for the most part, the Leafs have been really good at 5-on-5, and it has been, you know, okay this year, but it's closer than it's closer than I feel comfortable with, if I can just answer that way. How about you?
And that's totally. It's going to be a long series.
Yeah.
If the Leafs take care of business, they take care of business. But
it's going to 7.
It's either Leafs win in 6 or Sens win in 7. They're like,
wow.
Because let's be honest,
you got no faith, eh?
Game 7. What are you new here? The Leafs aren't winning a game 7. Unless that's the only way to break the cycle is to play the Sens just like they did back in the early 2000s.
Back in the day.
So
I would love to have. You know what I want? I want the Sens to lose, and I want Max Domi to wave them off the ice. Even though I know it's Darcy Tucker, but you know, I just think that would be iconic.
Yeah. So, I feel very strongly that the Leafs are a slightly better version of what the Ottawa Senators are, but we'll see. Now, let's get to some questions and then I have a rant to close out the show.
Okay, so Luke Venables, who is the bigger underdog? The Sens have very little playoff experience, or the Leafs, who have an overabundance of playoff demons? Sens are the underdog.
Yeah, the Sens are the reason that the Leafs, like, people pick against the Leafs is because of those playoff demons. That's not because they're an underdog. It's because they should win, but they don't.
Yeah. Yep.
It's what was it, Paul McLean quote from the Amazon doc? They got demons everywhere. They got demons like in their
the
car,
closet, under the bed. Yep.
Everything. That's what the Leafs are.
We need an exorcism, and maybe that involves crushing the Ottawa Sens in 7. That would be fabulous. So looking forward to resuming the animal making Ottawa fans cry again after the first round. It's a beautiful tradition. Go Leafs, go.
See.
Laughton got the belt. Thank you, Luke.
Awesome. Good
Love
for him.
That. A crying Habs fan is music to a Leafs fan's ears. Yeah, it's almost as good as Boston. I don't know if I love anything more than...
Casey, I can't believe you want to watch me cry on stream. I do believe it. I don't want to see you cry on stream. I just want to see the saltiness. I want to see like the Habs lose on a bad call or something, so that everyone.
Oh my god!
Because I'm not gonna lie, I had some bangers going out about
Brady Tkachuk own goal. That's what I want.
Lord. Or Linus Ullmark just doing what he
turned
did
into
last
Jack
year
Campbell
and being the reason that the Leafs win. Like remember that, like the Bruins dominate Game 1 and then they switch to Ullmark for no reason and then they just go back to Swayman the rest of the series.
Yeah. It would be nice if Linus Ullmark turned into Jack Campbell. That would be great.
Yeah.
Past is not the present. Ghosts can only scare the people that believe in them. True story, Mark. All right. Well, go on your rant, my guy, and we'll wrap up the stream here because we're going pretty long.
So thank you everyone for tuning in. This is going to be the way we close out the show.
Oh, hang on. Really quickly, there is a new question from Josh DeSalvo. Hey guys, love the show. Do you think Joe Wall's staying game one is written in stone? If so, how short is his leash? No, I don't think Joseph Wall gets game one. I think Stolar gets it.
It's Stolar's.
Yeah.
It's going to be Stolar's until he loses the net or the Leafs are down tremendously in the series.
Especially with that goal. Like if Joe Wall had come in and posted a shutout tonight, maybe it's more of a conversation. But that second goal, the Justin Hall.
The
Justin Hall revenge tour goal. Yeah. From distance, and he clearly saw it and just totally missed his head. Yeah, no, Stoley's my guy. Anyway, go on your rant. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah. I teased this a few weeks ago. I told everyone you have to tune in game 82 to see this. So here it is. The Toronto Maple Leafs have made the playoffs 9 years in a row. This is their 9th season in the playoffs. They've appeared in 9 playoff series, having only won one of them. In that time, they have gone 2-7 in game 1. They've also obviously gone 1-8 in playoff series. We have seen many different iterations of this team. We have seen teams that are young and skilled, maybe a little bit hungrier than they are happy to be there. We've seen teams that are infused with a little more veteran presence, the young guys. We've seen teams that focus a little bit more on being physical but still offensive. And now the last 2 years, we have seen teams that have focused more on the defensive side of the puck. This Leafs team is the best version of the Leafs that can be built with the current cap constraints. If you look at last year, they tried to win games by locking down the middle of the ice, playing low event hockey, and just trying to capitalize on this low amount of chances that they get. They have made themselves the best version of that construction possible. They are a great defensive team that grinds games to a halt, and they want to capitalize on the chances that they get. If this does not work, if the Leafs lose in the first or second round this year, there is no more other types of rosters you can construct. The Leafs have literally tried and failed at everything else in the Matthews, Marner, William Nylander era. Mm-hmm. Adding John Tavares to that as well early on. If there is any hope for this core, this will be the year that they do literally anything. And by that, I mean win a minimum of 2 playoff rounds. Because if you can't get to the conference finals with everything that has been done over the last 9 years, you do not deserve to be kept together as a core. Mitch Marner will be gone. John Tavares might be gone. And the Leafs, as we know them, will be completely rebuilt over the next few seasons. So, if there, again, everything is in place. They won the division. This is nothing against the Ottawa Senators. They are a very good team. They are the best of the 4 wildcard teams in the NHL by a decent margin, too. You avoid the Tampa, Florida matchup in round 1. You earned that right. Again, nothing against Ottawa, but we are more scared of Florida than we are of Ottawa. That is not a crazy thing to say. Mm-hmm. This is the opportunity this team has been waiting 9 years for. You blew it in 2021 when you had the easy matchup and you choked against the Habs. Okay, John Tavares got hurt in game 1, whatever. Everything went wrong, whatever. You are not going to get a better chance than this to go on a deep run. So, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares, and everyone on this team that has been trying and failing for 9 years, this is the time. Prove to us that you deserve to stay together.
Yeah. That was a round of applause for your rant, my guy. I know you've been bubbling at the surface to get all that out. It's definitely, I agree that this could very well be the last dance. For this specific group. Because if they get kicked out in the first round again, I think that the team looks radically different in September. Radically.
And the biggest thing, like I said, 2-7 in game 1.
Yep.
In this era. They beat Boston in 2019 in game 1, and they beat Tampa in 2022. They lost both those series anyways. Game 1 on Sunday. Start off on the right foot, show up. You are the more experienced team. Show these kids that the playoffs are different and get the series going on the right note.
Yeah. You win both the first 2 games at home.
Win.
Yeah. And this
Set the tone.
Yep.
Win.
and get a lead and hold on to it. And that is something that the Leafs have done ever since the Four Nations. For the most part, if they've gotten a lead, they have, and even when they've been behind, they're not afraid of being down by one now. They're not cheating for offense as much because they're relying on their defensive systems, and it's working. They're winning in games that they just don't deserve to win, like tonight, because they don't try. And I have a hard time believing they will have that same level of effort in this week's time.
The Leafs won the most one-goal games in the NHL. They are so comfortable in close games. There is no cope if they lose.
Yeah.
They just suck if they lose.
Yep. Lots of people, lots of drastic changes happen. But let's not think about that. Let's think about the fact that, game one has not been played. We are barely, 48 hours away from finding out that we've clinched the division. We need to celebrate the fact that we are going in with home ice advantage, with a competitive advantage over a team that has not been in the playoffs. They have not had that kind of strife and, character building losses that the Leafs have. And for years now, we've heard the same thing after all of these interviews. We need to learn from this and move forward. Well, fellas, you're staring down the long barrel of a long offseason where your entire franchise is rearranged if you do not pull together and put the puck in the back of the net more than the other team. That's what it boils down to.
And the other thing, of all the teams in the playoffs, the Leafs have one of the best road records of all those teams.
Yep. And that was not the case last year.
Most teams are great at home. Most teams are great at home and bad on the road. The Leafs, they're good at home, good on the road. Yep. But for the love of God, win at home in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. And if they only win their home games, they will win the first series. And give themselves.
We can't go into the playoffs without mentioning the Leafs have scored 3 or fewer goals in their last 14 playoff games, only scoring 3 goals once.
Mm-hmm.
For the love, I know they're a defensive team. You have to score in the playoffs, man.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. So
we shall see.
This is it.
Couple days. Go Leafs, go. Let's go. We will be back. Someone asked, Mark, you guys are doing the playoffs, right? Yes, we are. We will be live after every single Leafs game. It will be a multi-person game every time. Once Dom is back for game 3, it's more than likely going to be 3 of us as much as it can be. So really looking forward to having you all there. Please, if you know of any other Leaf fans, please get them in here because the playoffs is when this channel gets absolutely buzzing. So thank you for being here. Thank you for a wonderful regular season. So I'm really excited to. I mean, it's not my first year on Game Over, but it's been Zach's and Dominic's as well, and you guys have just been you've grown so much over this year, and it's been so nice to have you, and I hope that you've had fun this year. Like it's not done yet. Hopefully we have another 2 months. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, we'll save the obituaries. For
No, it's not an obituary. It's not an obituary. We're giving the toasts at the reception.
Yeah.
So have a great Easter weekend, everybody. We will see you on Sunday night. Make sure you eat lots. Make sure if you enjoy any kind of inebriation, you do so responsibly. And that way you can be here back on Sunday when Zach and I are going to be live after game 1 of the playoffs, Battle of Ontario. Let's go Easter weekend 2025. Go Leafs, go. Go Leafs, go.